Alice Paul fought for women's rights worldwide. She wrote the Equal Rights Amendment, which unfortunately was never passed, and led the National American Women's Suffrage movement. She went to law school to be able to fight for women's rights more effectively.
Margaret Sanger popularized the term birth control. She was an activist for it and taught sex education. She opened the first birth control clinic in the United States and gave a voice to women.
Eleanor Roosevelt devoted her life to giving women power in the U.S. government. She was the chair of the Democratic National Committee. She then solicited recommendations for all women's organizations in the country on what the platform should say. During her first few months as the First Lady, she kept women involved in establishing the New Deal.
Ida B. Wells spent her life fighting for both women's rights and African Americans' rights. She was the first woman to be an adult probation officer, and while she held that position, she fought to help gain equality for African Americans and women. She founded the African American Women's Suffrage Association and participated in suffrage marches.
Susan B. Anthony was the catalyst of the women's rights movement. She fought for the right for women to vote and devoted her life to the women's suffrage movement. She founded the organization National American Women's Suffrage Association.
Paul Heinrich, and I work in safety department. The expectation that, women do laundry, women cook, men go out and bring home the bacon. I don't agree with it, but that's how the stereotypes work.
Men are able to have many partners they sleep with, have many girlfriends, and, in the men's eyes, it's looked to as a good thing, They pound their bros for doing that, but if women were doing that, they'd be looked to as hoes and sluts, and they'd be called all the names in the book.
I think we just need to encourage women that, again, this is not, you don't have to sit home and take care of your children. You can be a mom and work, and it's possible to do both.
Are you kidding me? Black men got the right to vote in this country in 1865, and no woman could vote until 1920. So no, not even close.
Throughout history in this country, there have been progressive events, like you said, Seneca Falls, the 19th Amendment. You could even look at like Hillary Clinton's presence as the First Lady, and Roe versus Wade, all those different historical events, and you can think, well, like, how did this help women? I mean, women started at nothing in this country. Like, women were considered property, once you take your husband's last name.
Seneca Falls was an important event in which men and women came together to discuss women's rights. It ended with resolutions in which men and women were seen equal under the law. They also wanted women to have voting rights. This event led to the Declaration of Sentiments. Frederick Douglass helped Elizabeth Cady Stanton put the Declaration of Sentiments into place. It was a document similar to the other two that stated that women had the same civil and political rights as men. It was signed by both women and men at the Seneca Falls Convention.
Worchester Conventions and the American Anti-Slavery Society held national meetings for women's rights. This allowed women's rights activists to share their opinions and make decisions for the National American Women's Suffrage Association.
The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. President Woodrow Wilson pushed for this amendment to be passed, and it eventually was. This gave women the ability to voice their opinions in their country.
The Equal Rights Amendment is similar to the 19th Amendment because it gave everyone equal rights under the law. This made it so it could not be abridged by the U.S. government on regards of race or gender. This, unfortunately, was never ratified.
The reason why all those events were successful were because women came together.
Minor versus Happersett in 1872 was a court case in which Virginia Minor tried to gain the right to vote but was denied in the Supreme Court. She fought that because she was registered to vote and was a citizen of the United States, she should have the right to vote for representatives in her country, no matter what her gender was. The Supreme Court voted against Minor and against extending the rights of the 14th Amendment to including women, too.
Roe v. Wade was a case in which a pregnant single woman challenged the Texas laws against abortion. She ultimately won the case and gave women the opportunity to have rights over their body.
Women really don't have the rights over their own bodies. From abortion to birth control, it's a very complicated issue, but white, elderly, rich men are negotiating laws about women of all races, of all socioeconomic divides, and, you know, if they could get pregnant, would they have a different opinion?
Yeah, I'd say so, depending on how certified they are for what they do. I don't think anyone should not get paid based on, like, their gender at all.
Earnings of surgeons and physicians. Women's earnings are 64% of men's in 2009. Earnings of those with advanced degrees. Women's earnings are 77% of men's in 2010.
The key to standing behind an issue is to get unification and to have, so I think women need to come together and support each other. And if that doesn't happen, then there's no way we, as women, as people, can get any of the things that we rightfully deserve as a human, enacted into law. And so, if women can come together, for men to get behind the cause. There are men who identify as feminists, but you don't have to be feminist to support women's rights. It's just a label, and if you can get some men behind the women's rights cause, I think it'll give it more power. And I think it'll show that this is not only important for women, but it's also important for men.
It's going to take some time before patriarchy gets destroyed. And until it gets destroyed, we're all in big trouble because the earth is our mother, and I think she's pissed.